Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Chloe Feng. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. The mainland eases some COVID restrictions, but still upholds the dynamic zero policy. Police arrest 5 people in connection with the freak accident during a mirror concert. And Joe Biden and Xi Jinping will meet in person for the first time on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali. Beijing announced relaxations to some of its strict COVID measures today, despite rising cases on the mainland. The easing involves rules for people within the country and those hoping to fly in. Azam Khan reports.
One day after Xi Jinping's new standing committee had its first meeting, authorities in Beijing had some good news for the people. A series of changes were made to the country's strict pandemic rules, involving domestic policies and measures for those hoping to travel in. The length of quarantine at a facility for incoming travelers has been reduced from 7 days down to 5, followed by 3 days of isolation at home. They will also now be allowed to enter with just one negative PCR test, done within 48 hours prior to boarding. The cycle threshold, or CT value of a positive test, has also been lowered from 40 to 35. More international flights will also be starting up, while the circuit breaker mechanism has been scrapped. Previously, that policy caused airlines to face temporary suspensions if they brought in too many passengers who end up testing positive for the virus. Within borders, close contacts will no longer have to undergo quarantine and medical surveillance. While markets seem to welcome the announcement, the central government made it clear that it had no intention of dropping the dynamic zero policy. Authorities say resources need to be strategically allocated in preparation for further surges this winter. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
Locally, police arrested 5 people this morning in relation to the mirror concert incident earlier this year that critically injured a dancer. They've been detained on suspicion of fraud and allowing an object to fall from height. Joanna Ho reports.
Nearly 4 months since the freak accident at Hong Kong Coliseum, police finally took action this morning. A woman was taken away from her home at Tung Yuk Court in Shau Kei Wan. She was escorted to Hong Kong Police Station. 4 other men were arrested from raids in Ma On Shan, Lam Tin, Tai Kok Tsui, and Pat Hung. The 5 suspects, aged 40 to 63, are staff of main stage contractor Engineering Impact and its subcontractor Hip Hing Long Stage Engineering Company. All were detained on suspicion of allowing an object to fall from height. The 4 workers from Engineering Impact were also suspected of committing fraud. Police say there's evidence indicating they had made false declarations to the Leisure and Cultural Services Department.
The real weight of all these mechanical devices were totally different from the data that were given by the company. So we were of the view that they made the false declaration deliberately, with a view to speed up the approval process for the show.
Chung said the most exaggerated items were 8 sets of speakers, which were reported to be over 7 times lighter than their actual load. It was also found that staff were aware of problems with the LED screen the morning before it collapsed.
From the CCTV of the Hong Kong Coliseum, we find that some staff of Hip Hing Long, the subcontractor, has adjusted the LED monitor, LED panel. After that, we do not find any evidence that he has or the company has arranged any authorized person or engineer to inspect or check the LED panel.
Surveillance camera footage has also showed adjustments being made to cables attached to the panel. Chung said further arrests have not been ruled out. In July, Hong Kongers were left in deep shock after a giant screen collapsed onto the stage at a concert of the popular boy band Mirror. The incident at Hong Kong Coliseum left dancer Meng Li paralyzed from the neck down. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
The arrests were made after the government concluded a months-long investigation into the incident. In a press conference today, authorities reviewed what a government interdepartmental task force discovered. Here's Joanna Ho again.
Facing the press this afternoon, Government Advisor Eric Lim from the task force confirmed it was metal fatigue of the suspension cord that caused the near-fatal accident. Apart from insufficient bearing power, a cable protecting equipment was also found to have been rubbing with the wires, causing abrasions that led to the snap. The city's culture chief Kevin Yeung added that concert organizers had violated the Hong Kong Coliseum's terms and conditions of hire, saying they overrated the safety index of the mechanical devices used. The Leisure and Cultural Services Department will meet with the performance sector to discuss a set of recommendations by the task force to improve the current mechanism in hiring performing venues. Before new rules are implemented, hirers will have to abide by 3 stopgap measures introduced by the department earlier in August. Yeung, however, did not directly answer questions on the department's responsibility in ensuring information accuracy submitted by hirers.
This is how we are going to handle the case so that in future we will make sure that the stage or the installation in the venue would be safe both to the performers and the audience.
Meanwhile, Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun confirmed that the 2 injured dancers will be considered employees of the dance company hired for the show. That means the company will face follow-up actions by the government regarding failure to purchase insurance and reporting their injuries to authorities within the specified time period. Officials today did not rule out prosecution under the Occupational Safety and Health Ordinance. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
The developers of a major housing project in Yuen Long are facing investigation after it was found constructions did not fully match the drawing plans they had laid out. The government says it was not made aware of issues at Grand Mayfair's construction site until it received media inquiries. Another major private housing development atop an empty oil station has been plunged into a scandal. This time is a Grand Mayfair one in Yuen Long. The project at Kam Shan Road MTR station was previously found to have construction errors, which required amending, and is said to be affecting some 1,300 units. The news broke yesterday with the Buildings Department saying it had been unaware of any issues until it received media inquiries on the matter. The government later reached out to the site's structural engineer, who reported steel construction errors had indeed been found in some of the concrete pillars. Contractors were asked to correct the issue, and it was not reported to authorities because it was believed the mishap did not pose any immediate danger. Buildings Department staff were at the site this morning for further investigation to see if any laws were broken. The developers behind Grand Mayfair are Sidelines, Kiwa International, and China Overseas Land and Investment. It saw strong sales for its first and second phases, with buyers snapping up over 1,300 units worth $12.3 billion within a month after its first sales date. The MTR Corporation, meanwhile, has asked developers to handle the issue in a serious manner. The site's engineer says no demolitions are required, and the project will not be delayed. In July last year, New World Development was forced to tear down and rebuild 2 blocks of the Pavilia farm in Taiwan, after it was found constructions in the development's 3rd phase did not meet the requirements of the approved design. President Xi Jinping will sit down for talks with his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden next week in Indonesia, in a sign that the superpowers are finally willing to de-escalate tensions, Raymond Yuan reports.
It's finally happening. Nearly 2 years since taking office, U.S. President Joe Biden will meet with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. The two leaders will sit down for talks on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali. In a similar setting to 2019, when Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump, held discussions with Xi in Osaka. Trump has since stepped down, and Xi, because of COVID, did not go on an overseas trip until September, when he visited Kazakhstan. As Biden set off for the COP27 climate conference in Egypt, his top advisor refused to go into details.
The meeting between President Biden and President Xi will be an in-depth and substantive opportunity to better understand one another's priorities and intentions, to address differences, and to identify areas where we can work together. Because working together to address common problems is in our interest, and because it is what the world expects of responsible powers. This meeting is extremely important. There just is no substitute for this kind of leader-to-leader communication in navigating and managing such a consequential relationship.
Sullivan insisted Washington does not want to characterize the meeting, and instead allow the leaders room to communicate freely. While no major outcomes are expected, the meeting sends a positive signal that the superpowers are willing to turn the page. Sino-U.S. ties hit rock bottom in August when U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan, triggering a wave of condemnations from Beijing. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
The city's economic outlook is now even darker as the government slashed its annual economic growth forecast for the third time. Authorities now expect the city's annual gross domestic product to fall 3.2% this year due to surging global interest rates, slowing demand, and continued COVID curbs. That's compared with a prediction in August, which set the range at between 0.5% contraction to 0.5% expansion. Looking ahead, government economist Adolphe Leon said the pressure will continue due to external pressure, but relaxed quarantine measures will provide some support. Hong Kong stocks closed at an 8-month high after China announced the easing of some COVID restrictions. The Hang Seng Index wrapped up the week over 7% higher to surge beyond 17,000 points. Tech leader Tencent closed the day 11% higher. Alibaba at 12% and JD.com with 16% gains broke the shackles to lead the e-commerce rally. It was more than a happy Friday for food delivery platform Meituan, as it soared 12%. And with a turnover of $182.5 billion, index operator Hong Kong Exchange climbed 11%. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 1,244 points. Top 10 active stocks: Tencent up $27, Alibaba up $7.80, Hong Kong Exchange up $28.80. Wuxi Bio up $7.20, AIA up $5.90, JD.com up $26.70. Moving on to the forex trading against Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.06, British pound at 9.22, and Australian dollar at 5.22. Moving on to the UK market, the London FTSE is currently down 32 points. On to the weather now. It will be overcast with sunny intervals tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 23 and 28 degrees. Expect cooler mornings but warmer daytime temperatures in the next few days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Friday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Chloe Feng. Thanks for watching. Good night.